I create the most normal Transformers you will ever see in your life, and you can as well. Less complex and oversimplified. Unfortunately, I will not be creating Babeformers. I know it's hell badass, but I've only had 1 year of Blender experience, so for beginners like myself, G1 is a perfect way to learn. In this video, I will give a quick rundown on how I create what I call ordinary Transformers. Anyways, first, we're going to need a car. We'll get to the robot later. You may be eager to design the robot first, but if we start with the robot, the car's proportions may turn out a bit wonky. I like for the vehicle to appear seamless before the transformation. For this video, I've decided to make a G1 Bumblebee inspired Autobot with the Herbie paint job. Now, normally I design my own vehicles, but after failing to understand typology, I decided to take an existing model from the internet. I settled upon this one I found on Printables, which I will leave a link for in the description below, and it looks so much better than what I could have done. I downloaded only the body and the engine, while I would design everything else myself, such as the lights, bumper, windows, and wheels. So far so good. For the decals, I downloaded transparent images from Google, where I will arrange them above the desired location, add a shrink wrap modifier, and target the car's body. And I think that looks pretty good. Not the most accurate, but it's good enough for me. Once you're satisfied with the look of your vehicle, it's time to destroy it. We will have to split our car into pieces, so if you wish to keep the intact copy, you can. While for the other, we will be disassembling into an alien robot. Since this is heavily inspired by G1 Bumblebee, this process will be quite simple compared to most of the designs I've made in the past. Only 3 cuts will be needed for the chassis. To do this, I'm using the knife tool and cutting all the way around the shape. I may have chosen a difficult route. You are welcome to cut in any way you please, as long as you can separate each piece as its own object. The same may have to be done for the decals after the shrink wrap modifier is applied. Once all the pieces are separated, attach all the decals and other details as a child to the object they were originally placed upon. With that done, it's time to do some rearranging. First, start by selecting all pieces. Press the I key to create a keyframe for the location and rotation. This is to save their original position, which is the vehicle form. On a later frame, rearrange the parts to your liking. I usually start the transformations with subtle movement involving smaller parts like the bumper, and then separation of bigger pieces. In this case, the hood will become the feet, the roof and doors will become the chest, and the rear end will follow along to fold as a backpack. I try to move them in logical ways in which it looks as the pieces fold into place, rather than squashing, stretching, or floating into place. It may seem that way for now, but once the robot parts are added, it should all come together. The animation can be adjusted as we progress. This will be the robot form. Now it's time to design robot parts. I suggest to make them slightly thin to look as they can fit inside the car. I will allow squashing and stretching only if it's off screen. In reality, nothing really fits in the car, and this would not work as a toy in real life. And G1 had a lot of illogical transformations, like shrinking and stretching, but I still try my best to keep the car parts the same size. Once you're done with one leg, for example, copy it and mirror it to the opposite side. Do this for all limbs, and copy once you are satisfied with their look. You can also add in things to fill in the hollowness of the car, and any other empty spaces you may find, so pieces don't look as if they're floating. After all the robot junk is in standing position, select all robot parts, create a keyframe for location and rotation. Now, return back to vehicle mode, and basically find a way to shove all the robot junk into the car, while adding more keyframes in between to smooth out the movement. After I was satisfied with the movement, I suddenly realized something was missing. Ah yes, the head, and the hands, and the weapon, and the skeletal rig. At this point, it's just Bumblebee with the new paint job, and I am okay with that. It's an existing character with a new look, much like Barney Grimlock. So I downloaded references for Bee's head from multiple angles, redesigned it in 3D, and it doesn't look too shabby. I'm actually proud of how it came out. Place it above the body, along with a neck, which will most likely hide underneath the head. And now we need a meta rig, which I have stolen from one of my existing models. It was made with decent looking robot hands, which I unfortunately do not have any footage of me designing. In edit mode, align the bones with every body part you wish to attach them with. For example, to attach the car roof to the chest. Return to robot mode, make it a child, target the meta rig, and select bone spine 3. And if it moves out of place, set inverse. Congrats, the chest is attached. Repeat this process for all parts. Nothing should be left behind or floating in midair. Once all parts are attached to the meta rig, bodily movements can be animated after transformation. I will be shrinking the hands down for vehicle mode so they won't be visible.
Such noble nonsense.
But they will not be seen growing on screen. I will animate the legs squatting and bending when the feet are formed, and Bee's arms reaching behind to hold a blaster, which I will begin designing to accurately tell where the arms will position. He will then look around, aim, and return to a pose. Once I am satisfied with my bodily motions, I should get to work on animating the car driving into the frame. But then it suddenly occurred to me that I really hate this blaster I designed. It turned out too blocky and just wasn't too interesting, not the look I was wanting. So I instantly got to work on a new one, making it the exact same size as the original, inspired by vintage sci-fi toy guns. and it turned out so much better. But it kind of reminds me of the famous rifle. Still cool though. Now that I'm satisfied with the gun, we could finally move on to animating the entrance, which I, for some reason, added an object above the meta rig to puppeteer the rig's simple movement. Adding the object above is better for making the vehicle steer, which I did not do. Simply add a keyframe at the time you want the car to arrive, then reverse to a more previous time. Shift the meta rig or puppeteering device backwards and create another keyframe. I like to give the car a look of recoil as it brakes to a stop, which can be done if it first tilts backwards before reaching its destination. When it stops, tilt it forward and recover it back to its original angle and position. Finally, it should be set to render in view. And that's how I create my ordinary Transformers. Feel free to subscribe if you are new to the channel. Thanks for sticking around, and thanks for watching.